This is Territory Tales, the stories behind the people and places that make Oregon's Mount Hood territory so unique and awesome. I'm your host, Jared Lyman, joined as always by Molly Johnson, who is lucky because she got a little preview by talking to our guest yesterday before we had the show. And I'm pretty excited because he's got some cool stuff to talk about.
Yes, he does. I was lucky. I got to go out to Estacada, which is where Dan Lawrence, owner of Circle Cider, has his awesome new cidery.
As I'm going to call you, Dan the Cider Man.
Sure.
Because I think it works.
Yeah.
It rhymes. I like it. So let's start off. Cider. It seems to be kind of, I mean, it was a big thing back in the day, as you will, like a heritage drink, a historic drink. But it seems to have been growing in popularity lately.
Yeah, so it's I think you touched on an important point. Cider's really making a comeback. It was incredibly popular, especially in the colonial era of North America, and then dating back thousands of years in Europe as well. But during the colonial era, our founding fathers, cider was the drink of choice. It was much more popular than beer at the time.
Was it just a flavor preference, or was that because of like the ease of making it, or was there like technical reasons behind it?
You know, it was largely the ease of making it. There were some kind of practical reasons as well. You know, in Northeast America, they don't it isn't a region that's known for growing the wheats and barleys that you need to make beer, but it's a really good cider apple growing region. Also, when the settlers first settled in North America, especially in New England and the colonial areas, the water sources were unknown and potentially unsafe or unsanitary. So cider, by its very nature, the acidity in the apples and the alcohol in the cider is a natural sanitizer. So it's much safer to drink cider than it would have been an unknown water source.
Why? You know, I wish that was like true today. That I can say, no, really, I'm healthy, doc. I'm drinking cider. I'm doing good. You know, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And my apple just happens to be in liquid form.
Yeah. Well,
with a little fermentation.
You know, John Adams himself drank 2 tankards of cider every morning.
Okay, how much is a tankard?
So that's the thing. It sounds like a lot. It's about a pint.
Okay.
So it sounds like it's a huge barrel, but it's only about a pint. But that's how he started his morning every morning.
Well, that's good.
And he was president, so we can learn from our founding fathers still today.
Well, it seems to me that I guess there's that air of like everything old is new again. You look at movies, that's the reboots and sequels of stuff like 30 years ago or whatever. But cider has really made that comeback. What do you think is fueling that resurgence in popularity?
Boy, I think there's a number of things. I definitely can speak to exactly what caused it to go away, and that was Prohibition. Actually, kind of killed the industry, and what it's attached to is, and this is very important for this type of cider we make, is there's a class of apples that are grown just for cider making. So it's similar to wine, where you can make wine with a table grape. You're not going to make the best wine with the table grape, and the same holds true for cider. So there's a class of about 300 varieties of apples that are grown for cider making. They tend to be a little bit higher in tannins than most other apples.
Okay.
But during Prohibition, so we used to have those planted throughout the country. Johnny Appleseed was a real person. He was, planting apples primarily from seed, but those were typically used for cider.
You know, that was something they didn't tell us in elementary school about Johnny Appleseed. They just told us the dude was planting apples.
Well, that's
the whole story.
That's the extent of the story. His story is very interesting as well. But what happened during Prohibition was all of the cider apples got the axe or the torch because there was no purpose for them anymore.
Right.
So it killed them off. But I think, what's caused the resurgence, I think it's a number of things. I think it's the craft beer movement and the people kind of expecting more and different flavors from flavors and styles from in beverage categories. I think the kind of gluten awareness and gluten-free movement has also kind of helped to push cider forward, and I think it came back because it's a great product category. It tastes great. It's the way I like to pitch cider is it has all the depth and character and diversity and of any of the finest wines, but it's a lower in alcohol content, so you can drink it by the mouth like a beer.
And I do.
Well, I think that's maybe another thing is it seems like a little more approachable than wine, because I mean, even though wine has become so, used throughout society now. I mean, it used to be like considered like a rich person's drink, and now it's so approachable anybody can drink it. But there's still that learning curve.
Yeah.
That because there's so many varieties out there, and there are becoming more varieties of cider. But I don't know. It just seems like maybe a little more approachable, and even with beer, it's an easy drinking type of drink that, like, at least to me, it's like something you can have on a hot day after mowing the lawn or something. It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I think that I'd agree with you. I think that cider tends to be, maybe a little less pretentious than wine. Not that all winemakers or all wine drinkers are pretentious by any means, but oh no.
He's popular. It's okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, not that all winemakers are is pretentious, but I think it's a very approachable drink. It's rich with kind of apple flavor. We've drank apple juice and fresh apple cider throughout our lives, and it's something, especially when you come out to our farm where we make it and where we just recently opened a tasting room, we don't necessarily expect everyone to know everything about cider, or, I think there will be many people that will come out that maybe don't know anything about cider. And so we expect that, we welcome that, we know a lot about cider there, and we want to create an educational experience and talk to you and spread the good word, I guess.
Well, speaking of going out there, I just did that yesterday.
Yes.
And you gave me a little lesson. I'm super excited for you to kind of talk about those specific apples that are made for cider that you grow there and that makes your kind of farmhouse series.
Yeah, so we have about 2,000 different varieties of cider. Or I'm sorry, not varieties. We have about 2,000 apple trees on our farm, with about 15 different varieties. The types of apples that we grow are cider apples, as I mentioned. They tend to be a little bit higher in tannins. They're primarily English and French variety cider apples. The style of cider that is our flagship style is an English scrumpy style cider. I actually spent 6 months in Southwest England learning how to make it. My business partner and brother-in-law is from about 5 miles outside of Stonehenge, which in Southwest England is actually the largest cider producing region in the world.
Wow.
And actually, I was looking at your website, and there is a picture of your cider at Stonehenge.
Yes, yeah.
Which is awesome, and I plan on using that on our website for the article, if that's okay.
Yeah, please do.
But, I mean, to see that, that juxtaposition of the American cider, English style in England, and then I see on the bottle, so Stone Circle, does that come from Stonehenge? Is that why it's named?
Yeah, we wanted to, that is where the name comes from. We wanted to make the connection to England and have an homage to that style of cider. Like I say, my brother-in-law's from about 5 miles outside of there. We knew that was the style of cider that we were going to be trying to make, and we really wanted to make that connection in our name and in our branding.
What makes a cider English versus, whatever we call American cider, I guess?
Sure.
But what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, it's primarily the cider apples that are used. So for the particular or the types of apples that are used are cider apples. So what the tannins do and what those class of apples will create is just a lot more kind of rich, full-bodied flavor to it. And then with the particular style we make, which is an English scrumpy, it really retains the apple essence nicely. So it's something you take a sip of, you can tell that it's made of apples. The scrumpy and kind of farmhouse style ciders are also unfiltered, which again helps kind of retain that apple essence and give it a nice kind of full flavor to it. And it's slow fermented, so not all ciders made in the United States are made once a year the way that we make our cider. So the cider industry still is kind of heavily influenced by the brewing industry here, where there the model is you make
Just
beer
make throughout the year.
Yep,
Yeah.
it takes about a month to make it, and cider can ferment in about a month. But the more traditional way of making it is you press the apples are seasonal. You press the apples in the fall. It ferments all fall and winter, and then the cider's kind of ready late spring, early summer. So that's the model we follow. That is a little bit more similar to a winery model, and I think it's also worth noting, cider is very much more similar to wine than it is to beer. It's actually the same exact process. It's just apples instead of grapes. You take the fruit, crush the fruit, squeeze the juice out of it, allow the juice to ferment.
That actually I never even really thought about that, because I mean, you tend to think of cider as like a brewed or a beered product, but it's just apple wine.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to be 100% honest on it, I guess it just kind of would be apple wine almost.
Yeah, and that's actually what they call it in Germany. It's Appelwein in Germany, but.
You gotta love the literal naming sense of the
Oh
Germans.
yeah.
And scrumpy. I think that's my new favorite word.
Yeah, I figured he was going to pick up on that one.
Oh yeah, no, that's
It's my favorite of the dwarfs.
yeah, sure. Scrump is a fantastic word. It comes from a word they use in England to scrump, which is a verb which means to like steal fruit. So you would scrump apples from your neighbor's trees, and that kind of leads to how we define scrumpy. Everyone has a little bit definition for it, but it's a blend of every different cider apple you can get your hands on, and then slow fermented and filtered.
Well, you also talked about your brother-in-law and knowing that was the type of cider that you wanted to make, was that English style. But what made you want to start making any cider at all in the first place?
Yeah, well, so he had kind of introduced it to us when he married my sister. It'll be 10 years ago next month. An early congratulations to the two of them. But he introduced us to at least to me, to cider when he came into the picture, and especially that style of cider, which I had never really had before. And the idea to make it. Was kind of as offhand an idea as you'd ever have. Is we should buy a farm and make cider, and
So that's the kind of like dream thing that's made up, like when a group of friends are sitting there talking over like a beer or a cider, and like, dude, we should totally start a farm, but y'all actually did it.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what it was like. It was a conversation similar to that, and then just the things fell into place from there. So it just, the financing was there, and the skill sets made sense, the business idea made sense, and it was something we were, passionate about and interested in, and we thought would be, something that we could do a good job with. So we pursued it, and it's worked out for us so far to get us to where we're at. So we're thrilled to be here.
That's sort of the exciting things I think about your business, is that it's not just the cider brewery, or what do you call it? I guess is
a cidery.
A cidery. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
a cidery. So it's not just a cidery, but you're the farm as well.
Yes.
So you guys are in control of every step of the process.
Yep. Yeah, and that's an important part of what we do too. We make farmhouse cider, which means a little bit more than just making it on the farm. But I think it's easy to, especially with all the kind of sweet and flavored ciders out on the market, to kind of lose the connection. It's like that cider really is an apple product, and it is an agricultural product, and an agricultural product made from apples, and that's something we want to kind of make sure that we demonstrate with our connection by inviting people out to our farm rather than having a tasting room in town somewhere, but and really giving people the opportunity to see that and make that connection themselves. But we were really lucky, that's my brother-in-law had a background, and that's another reason why the idea made sense, was because my brother-in-law had a background in horticulture. So the idea was he would understand the trees, how to keep them alive and productive and propagate them. And my background was more in sales and marketing, so I could brand and hopefully sell the product. What we didn't have a tremendous amount of experience in was actually making cider. And when you're
Just a small part of
yeah,
the thing.
well, and when you're starting a cider business, that's a shortfall you take very seriously. So my sister and brother-in-law had young kids at home, so they didn't have the opportunity to do this, but I was less encumbered. I had the opportunity. I went to my brother-in-law's, stayed with my brother-in-law's family in England, and I worked at once for 6 months. And I worked at one cidery for 4 days a week, and then on the 5th day each week, I went to a different cidery and either worked or observed. And it just paid dividends in spades in terms of our approach to cider making and really understanding the style and what the style was, what made the style what it is, and the approach that we needed to take to make it, which I never would have understood. I don't think either of us would ever truly understand unless you go there and have that experience. So it really paid dividends for it. An experience I'm very, feel very blessed that I had the opportunity to have.
Okay.
I think another unique element, though, is that, love for cider making that you developed by observing all this is you're sharing at your cidery. I mean, people can come and see the farm, see how the apples grow and all that, learn about that, see, taste the cider, see how it's made, but you've also got a little bit of your business there devoted to the history of it.
Yeah, definitely. That's something we're going to, so a part of the educational experience when people come out, that a big part that we're going to be opening up in a week and a half. We have an event that's the English Cider and Cheese Experience on August 24th from 4 to 8, where we have 3 other cider makers. The 3 other cider makers that make English-style cider in the region are going to come out. You'll be able to try. We'll each have 3 ciders. You'll buy a ticket. You'll be able to try all of the ciders that we have, as well as get a plate of cheese that all pairs with that style of cider really nicely. It's well, and we kind of decided, cheese is universally loved. Like, people
Right.
come for the cheese and stay for the cider. I have no, qualms about saying that, but one of the things that we're doing on that weekend is we're actually opening up a cider museum on the farm, and that's where we can tell these stories about what cider is, how it's made, its connection to the farm, its connection to agriculture. And it really does have a rich and really, fascinating history behind it, as well as a fascinating culture behind it. Not quite as much in America currently, but certainly in England, there's a genre of music that's devoted, called Scrumpian Western, that's kind of devoted
Are you serious?
to.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm gonna have to head to Spotify after this and find that.
Yeah. So there's a genre of music called Scrumpian Western, and it's just, especially in the English West Country, cider is a big part of the culture there. Like I say, it's the largest cider producing region in the world. I'm quite sure it's the largest cider consumption region in the world as well. It's a big part of kind of defining who those people are and what their culture and background is.
So for those who are listening to the podcast and not watching on YouTube, there are 4 different bottles on the table here. You brought some of your varieties. Talk about these, and then some of the other different types of cider and what makes them different from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I say, we specialize in the scrumpy style of cider, and what they'll do in English farmhouses is you'll come in and they'll really only have 2 ciders. They'll have a dry and a sweet, and then you can blend them for a medium.
Yeah.
So what we do is we have a dry, semi-dry, and sweet. It's all the same cider. It's just varying degrees of sweetness. So like, the difference between dry and sweet is the presence or absence of sugar or sweetener. So our dry is a true dry, so there's no residual sugar. Sweetness has a bit of a brut champagne, sour apple quality to it. Then our sweet's not overly sweet. It's more like other companies, just regular cider, has a nice kind of juicy apple flavor to it. The semi-dry is 2/3 dry, 1/3 sweet. my personal favorite, nice dry tasting cider, just has splash sweetness, kind of bring the fruit flavor out in it. It's really easy to drink. But if you come out to the tasting room, we don't have the semi-dry on tap. We just have the dry and the sweet, and we blend for the semi-dry. But you can also make a semi-sweet if you wanted. You could do a straight medium. The idea is you can kind of customize it to whatever your sweetness preference is, and everyone has a different sweetness preference. But those are,
Which I love.
yeah,
That you guys can do that.
yeah.
I was moving the laptop screen that controls all the recording so I could look at the last bottle, because you mentioned those first three, but the last one, and now I see why, it is something different as well.
It is, yeah. So this is our sour cherry cider. This one's made with 10% pie cherry juice, so it has a nice tart cherry pie aroma and flavor to it. We have that's a really good. We have that one year round, and that rounds out our 4 kind of flagship ciders at the moment. But we also always offer a seasonal. Currently, our seasonal is really fun cider. It's a lavender tarragon. Has a nice kind of floral aroma to it. Tarragon ends up making a bit of a savory cider. And then we'll usually also have 1 or 2 ciders at the tasting room that we don't have in our bottle lineup, or that we don't necessarily have available everywhere else. Currently, what's noteworthy, we have a Perry, which is really hard to get. So, or really hard to source the fruit for. So just like cider apples, just like wine grapes, there's a class of pears that are cultivated for the purpose of making perry, which is just like cider. It's just made with pears instead.
Okay.
So we had a line on some perry pears out in Yakima a couple years back, and we made this wonderful perry, but sadly the trees got ripped out, and we no longer have access to that fruit. So we do have the perry on tap at the tasting room, but it's only available at the tasting room. So you have to come pay us a visit if you want to try it. It's magnificent. I highly recommend it before it goes.
Nice hook. That was good.
I think you mean I think you mean get to come visit you. Get to come.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because it's beautiful there, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, we're really fortunate. We love the spot. It's an indoor-outdoor tasting room, so you can come in. After August 24th, we'll have the museum, and you can mill about the museum and learn about cider. But then it's also outdoor. We have a really nice fire pit. We have a lot of picnic tables. We have picnic blankets, so you can come have a picnic, sit by the pond.
You hear that? Sit by the pond.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
She was talking quite a bit about the pond. She really liked that.
Sure. Yeah.
All about the water.
Yeah, no, it's a spring-fed pond. The spring, opens up on the neighbor's property, so it's a really clean pond. It's just we're thrilled with the spot that we found, and we love all our neighbors and
Little
Estacada.
slice of heaven just outside Estacada, right?
We're fortunate to be in a community where we have people like you guys doing what
Yeah.
you're doing and
Yeah.
helping, promote small businesses and promote tourism to the area. That's really just a wonderful area. There's so much to see and do. And,
Yes.
See, we think so too. I mean, we're biased, obviously, but
Sure.
we're definitely into the area.
Well, but I'm sure there's no shortage of places or things that you can cover and talk about around here, because there
That's
is so
definitely the
much
truth.
to see and do.
So what kind of things or meals or whatever does cider pair well with? So if I were to, come taste and then buy a bottle, if, with each one of your flagships, what would I have it with for dinner?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think our cider is particularly good for pairing with food because of what I was talking about earlier, the rich apple essence to it makes it good for anything that you'd pair apples with, but particularly anything pork.
I was about
If
to
you
say
can
pork
pair
chops.
it
That
with
sounds-
pork chops, pulled pork sandwich, anything with pork, you pair it with any of our ciders, and it'll change your life, man. It's, it is magnificent.
I'm sorry, I'm getting drool on the microphone.
Yeah, no, I'm wiping it myself. No, it's magnificent with pork. Most cheeses it pairs fantastically with as well, especially like a nice earthy cheddar, a blue cheese like a Stilton. The dry goes really well with seafood. Sweeter stuff goes well with like spicy food, like Mexican food.
Ooh.
But
Oh, you clinched him.
and it also goes great with good or poor weather.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's true.
It is a versatile drink. It's something that you can have, just in the afternoon, in the evening, or with dinner. You can really drink cider anytime. Or, if you want to be like our founding fathers, just drink 2 tankards every morning, get going, and be about on your day.
So you guys have only, just opened up fully recently, but you're really hitting the ground running because you've got a lot of stuff coming up to help, inspire people to get introduced to you guys and your cider.
Yeah, definitely. So we've only been open a couple months, but this fall we have a lot of really cool events coming. It's a great time of year to come visit the farm. So I had already spoken to the English cider and cheese experience that's coming up in a couple weeks. But in the fall, we have a number of programs that are really cool. In October, we'll be having a demonstration day where you can come check out the apple press in action.
Oh, cool.
People will be able to sign up to do if they want to come and help us press. We can always use help pressing for experience packages like that. We're going to be doing a program this fall where you can bring in the apples that you have from your yard that you're not currently using, a social cider program where you can come bring those to us and we'll press them, and that will go into its own batch, and you'll own a share of that batch based on the amount of apples that you brought in. And then in the Christmas, as we get into Christmas, we have a bonfire night and chili cook-off coming up. We're going to have a Christmas tree lot on the farm, so you can come out to the farm and pick up your Christmas tree.
And I mean, in Estacada, there's Christmas tree farms everywhere, so it's not like the trees are being shipped in. They're shipping from right there.
Yeah, no. So we have Christmas trees on our property. So,
okay. So there are still trees there.
So we've been the farm's been in Christmas trees. We're transitioning it to a cider apple orchard. Yeah. So no, they're hyper local. But what's great about the Christmas time as well, we'll be having a Christmas market one weekend, but. We'll have hot mulled cider, which if you've never had mulled cider, MULLED, it's a magnificent beverage. It hot,
smells like the holidays.
Sweet, spicy, boozy. It's kind of everything you want around
Christmas
like
time.
It's really nice. Yeah. So we'll be serving that as well. So that's definitely a great time to come visit. But it's never a bad time to come visit.
Except for if you're not open. So what are your hours?
We're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So Fridays 2 to 8, Saturday 12 to 6, Sunday 12 to 5. So and we're open every weekend. We'll be open year round.
Dig it.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh man.
So we have a little surprise for you.
Oh.
Yeah. We do this to everybody. The whole point of these podcasts is to get to know the people behind Oregon's Mountain Territory's attractions, and we do that through the conversation, but we also do that through a little thing that we like to call Would You Rather?
Okay.
Dramatic music cue. Molly curates 5 Would You Rather questions, just silly random stuff. We laugh at them, we laugh at your answers, we talk about it a little bit, and just, kind of put off the top of your head whatever you want to go with.
Okay.
So, Molly, with no further ado, would you rather?
Okay, Dan. Would you rather be an unknown Major League Baseball player or a famous badminton star?
I already am an unknown. See, you didn't even know that.
I was almost going to interrupt you and say baseball player before the other thing. I do like badminton, but it's fun to play. I can't think of even the most famous badminton player.
Well, there you go. The market's open. You could just slide right in.
Not that I want to be famous. I think I would be pretty happy if I were an unknown Major League Baseball player. Even Major League, that's an accomplishment. They have to work through.
And that league minimum salary ain't nothing to say.
No, that's true too. Yeah, I don't know how much the most successful badminton player is making, but
although we're gonna go
probably
to the farm,
not the league minimum.
The next time we go to the farm, he's gonna have a badminton court. He's getting ready.
I queued you up. Okay, cool. So, would you rather have an unlimited gift certificate to a restaurant or to a clothing store?
Boy, I'll bet that I would say a clothing store.
Good answer. Correct
yeah.
answer. Correct.
I don't know. I
Depends on the restaurant. What if it's a type of food you don't like?
well, yeah. So do I get to choose
I
the
think you get to
restaurant
choose.
or the
You get to choose the
clothing
restaurant
store?
and the clothing store. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll say. I mean, both. I would be happy to have either, but I guess I'd say clothing store.
Clothing
Although if
store.
you have the restaurant one, you're going to need the clothing one store too. Because you're
For
going to
those of you watching on
continue
YouTube,
needing
you
bigger
can tell
clothes.
like I need the. I need the fashion
You're
help.
sporting your
Randy, what logo wear?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm wearing
logo,
my
you
own
gotta support
stuff.
me,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Represent.
polo's great. Buy one.
Well, okay, since you didn't pick the restaurant, so would you rather eat pizza or ice cream as the only food ever for eternity?
Oh, pizza.
Yeah.
It's so versatile because there's so many different toppings you could put on it. Like you could even do like a fruit pizza, or I'm from the Midwest originally. We have breakfast pizza there, which you guys don't have out here. It's fantastic.
Well, we do
Use-
technically. I've eaten cold pizza for breakfast.
Well, yeah, but so this is, it's really good. It's like you'd use like a biscuit crust, and then like the sauce would be country gravy, and then you put cheese, egg, and sausage on it.
All right, honey, I hope you're listening to this. That's going to be breakfast one of these days.
I know. He's all about those sandwiches.
So, but real quick, I want to go into that. So, talking about pizza, what cider would be good to pair with a pizza? Just like a standard, like pepperoni pizza or something.
Yeah, pepperoni or sausage, anything that has pork in it. Pork and cheese. So it all works.
It's got everything. See,
yeah.
I love it.
I would say the dry, yeah. Anywho.
And if you're vegetarian, just cheese. And if you're vegan, do they have vegan
help you.
crusts?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. I can't.
I'd imagine they do somewhere.
Yeah.
Jackfruit is what people say for vegans to pair with cider. People have told me. but
Okay.
We should ask Kira.
I've not tried it.
Okay. Would you rather have more time or more money?
Again, I almost interrupted you after more time, and it's still I'd rather have more time. I'm not hyper motivated by money. I just want to be able to kind of accomplish what I want to accomplish, and that requires more time rather than more money.
Well, how dignified is that?
That was a good answer, but I mean, I think just about every small business owner we ask that question to would probably answer the same way, because I mean, it's always that struggle, trying to make things work, but time is that commodity that seems to be in short of supply.
Yeah, someone posted a meme the last week that's somewhat relevant to this. They said, a business owner, an entrepreneur, is someone who works 18 hours for themselves, 18 hours a day for themselves, so they don't have to work 8 hours a day for someone else. And that hit close to home.
And it's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Yes. And our final would you rather question
Is would you rather be the oldest or the youngest sibling?
The youngest. Yeah, I would say the youngest sibling. I am the youngest sibling of two.
And you enjoy it?
Yeah. Yeah, you're the baby. People dote on you, and they don't. I think the oldest sometimes has to kind of break through the wall a little bit, and parents have a better idea of what they can and can't let them get away with. I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
It's
I'm
easy
the youngest
being the
too.
baby. Yeah, people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an only child.
There's
I'm
nothing to
staying out of
complain
this.
about it. Yeah.
So Dan the Cider Man, Stone Circle Cidery.
Yes.
We're going with that. That needs to be on a shirt now. Dan the Cider Man.
Okay.
But real quick again, tell everybody how they can find you online and give us those hours one more time for Stone Circle Cidery.
Yeah, so the best way to connect with us, if you're interested in any of those events, is on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Stone Circle Cider. You can also just go to stonecirclecider.com is a great way to kind of learn more about the brand and where we're at. We're just outside of Estacada, about 3 miles outside of Estacada. We're open every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Fridays 2 to 8, Saturday 12 to 6, Sunday 12 to 5. So please come visit us. We'd love to see you out there. We have a great place where we're eager to share it with all of you. So,
And it is absolutely beautiful. So, I mean, you've got the cider that is as delicious as the place is beautiful. Now that's a perfect pairing.
hey, we do our best.
Thanks again for coming in today.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thanks,
it.
Jared.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Molly.
Thanks to our listeners and viewers to Territory Tales. We will be back with our next podcast. I don't know what it is, so you'll be just as surprised as I am when I find out who we're interviewing. But until then, be sure to subscribe to us. We are on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, every place you can find podcast, SoundCloud, or hit that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. So until then, thanks for listening to Territory Tales.